Close enough? All right. 6:30-ish, we'll start the meeting. All right, any need for executive tonight?
We should probably start having a discussion about the town report and dedications and photographs, and we usually do that in executive session to maintain some surprise factor.
Okay.
I have one, actually, well, one on personnel, town manager, and then one with the police department. It's not really personnel, but it's, I guess you could call it personnel.
Anything else? Okay.
I'll make a motion to go to executive session for those topics.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, and we do need to amend the agenda to add a municipal mask mandate discussion.
Representative Shaw will help us with that conversation under new business.
Okay. Anything else? We get a motion to adopt the amended agenda.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anything on the meeting minutes of the last meeting? Okay.
Here they are.
Any questions on the orders?
I see it. We finally got some trees for out here. I'm just curious as to what we wound up getting.
I think
Does
it's
anybody know?
3 flowering crab apples, 2 of one variety, and the other is the odd one out in the middle.
Hopefully they'll weather the
I hope so.
weather, I guess, if you wanna call
We
it
do have
that.
a couple that were donated by Trish Lewis about 7 or 8 years ago, which are doing very well out front.
Great.
Yeah.
That'll look good.
Nope, I'll just, as I usually do, just say we sent $2 million to the school, so.
I see that.
Did see that.
Help the payment.
Mm-hmm.
If you'd like, I'll circulate these down for your signatures. Thank you.
That's if we sign it.
Right.
All right. Just
We might do it, so.
Yeah,
If we don't sign
they
it.
probably have already got it.
Who gives me money?
Oh, I have it.
No, but you.
Here's payroll.
town manager's report?
Yes, thank you. As to the sidewalk scoping study, there will be additional committee meetings on November 30th and December 21 to discuss the most promising sidewalk routes based on public input, constructability. The consultant will then conduct a second alternatives public hearing to coincide with a select board meeting in late January or early February. I'm pleased to say that the town's Veterans Day event took place on Thursday, November 11th here at the town offices, and many thanks are owed to all those who participated and presented a solid program. Thanks also to all who came out to attend this important annual ritual, and I think we had among our largest crowds ever. It seems to be building each year, 75 or 80 people by my rough count. Finally, of course, thanks go out to all our nation's veterans. There will be an Almia issues team meeting tomorrow night. We haven't had one in person since the beginning of the pandemic. And Almia will be, as usual, discussing their business operations, and we will all be discussing any impacts on the community. So if anybody has any issues you'd like for me to raise with our friends at Almia, please let me know. Donna Wilson reports that the Pittsford Village Farm has responded to a few requests for more information regarding their pending grant application. If a grant is awarded, the select board may be asked to sign off on additional documents to meet the grant funding agency's requirements about certain town policies. We are staying tuned with fingers crossed for our friends at the Village Farm. Speaking of the Village Farm, on Sunday, November 28th, from 5 to 6:30 p.m., there will be a holiday tree lighting ceremony at the Pittsford Village Farm. All are welcome to attend, and you may even get a chance to meet Frosty the Snowman. I'm looking at you, Dave, just in case you've missed out on that before.
Yeah, I'm okay, I'm good.
Our friends in Chittenden will be testing their 4 emergency sirens on Monday, November 22nd at 11 a.m. So if and when you hear the alarm on that date and time, please do not be alarmed. Finally, the town offices will be closed Thursday and Friday, November 25th and 6th in observance of Thanksgiving's holiday. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thanks, John. Any select board member remarks tonight?
Go ahead.
I've had several people contact me, one later early tonight, about the intersection down here at Plains Road and 7. The light's not bright enough, and with that new sidewalk, people are hitting it. Even seeing where somebody's driven up over that new
Oh,
grass.
geez.
No, I think it's something that needs to be addressed. And that is in the village, by the way, so that could get a new street light.
Oh, yeah. I heard from Terry Keith about that.
I had one.
And I did talk with the folks at Dollar General. They say they didn't do anything with regard to the streetlights. So I'll talk to GMP and or V-Trans and see what we can
They
find
may
out.
have reduced it too, Green Mountain.
Yeah, yeah.
But
We do
they
have-
put a brighter one there.
Yeah, yeah.
They do have them.
Is it possible they might need to put some kind of a different light there?
Yeah, I think they need a brighter one to light up the intersection.
It might be one of those LED lights that was transitioned about
I think
8 years
it
ago.
probably is.
But we'll take a look.
Those LED lights they're okay, but they're
Some of them are
different than
very-
what the old lights used to be.
Depends on
Quite a
the
difference.
wattage.
Okay.
That's all I had.
Okay, a few things. We're talking about lights. I've had a complaint about how bright the lights are down there in their parking lot.
In the parking lot.
So just,
Vice
now, do those get shut off after the store closes?
Supposed to come off at 10, I believe.
Yeah, come off at 10, okay. Okay, so I've had that complaint. Susan Elliott, who's evidently a birder, contacted me on the Adams Road Solar Project. You know, just concern over that going in and the effect on birds. She sent me a link. I didn't take the time to count, but there's a lot of birds she's found there over the, you know, however long she's been doing this, so it's a concern. She wanted aired. Last night at Regional, Grandpa's Knob Wind was there. Just a few things that maybe weren't clear before. The net height of the tower with the blades will be the same as the,
Cell tower?
cell tower that's up there now, because they're setting it back down over the hill. As far as timeline, you're looking at November of '22 before, their application to CPG will even be prepared. So, there's time. According to their drawings, it will not be visible from the Pittsford Village Farm. Just telling you what they said. And as far as the road going up there, there would be one turn that would need some work. Other than that, according to their engineer, they can get all the way up through there with their stuff. So, again, some of the stuff that came up that we hadn't heard before. I think that's it.
All right.
Just to add to that, I see Humberton sent us a letter. Are they not too happy about it and they'd like us to support them? It's something we need to consider.
Yeah, yep. All right, any public comment tonight? Outside of the agenda item?
It's a comment on something that
Yeah.
Selectman Mills just said.
Okay.
Okay, so Dave's $2 million payment to the state.
Oh.
Is to-
No, school, not state,
To the
school.
schools, right, is, so what's happening in Montpelier with that is there's a strong sentiment, and I think we may take action on it, to have the towns not collect school tax anymore. Have the school tax go directly to the state, and the state will do the schools. And it will take the town out of it, so that you would not have to handle that, and incur the expense of collecting those taxes and moving that money to the school district. It's state money that you're moving over to the school district. And, yeah, it is.
Do we get any interest on that, how we
Pardon
keep it though? That would be one of my
Well,
questions.
there's that and the fact that at least I can announce this at a meeting so people,
Yeah.
when they're complaining about our budget, they can see these millions that are leaving versus what we're actually spending in the town.
I get that, Dave. And
So-
that's part of the argument, is that it's really not the town's money that you're collecting. It actually belongs to the school district, and you're acting as an intermediary for the school districts using your mechanism for collecting taxes.
So it would be, so you would get a
You would get a
separate school bill?
tax bill. And it would be.
Okay, well, that would wake people up maybe.
Yeah, that would.
But I'm interested in Chief Hooker's point about
Yeah,
whether we've
I
been
mean-
collecting interest while we're holding
Well, we
these
hold
funds.
money.
I'll ask Helen about that.
Yeah.
I'm sure
At
that's a
today's,
sizable amount
at
of money.
today's interest rate, you know,
Well, yeah.
I don't think that's much of a,
Well,
Go ahead, Lisa.
that won't always be the case.
yeah, we hope. But anyway, that conversation is ongoing, and I think we would have acted on it last year had we been in person. But because it's a tax issue, it takes a vote of 75% of the body to pass. So it's a big process.
Go ahead.
So just to respond to that, I wasn't going to comment about that, but since it's been brought up, I heard quite a bit about this from town clerks when it was, the idea was first floated around, I don't know how many years ago, Butch, it seems like
Yeah.
3 or 4 years ago they were talking about it.
Yeah.
And the town clerks presented to me, so how would that work with delinquent tax payments? Could you be delinquent with the state but not delinquent to the town, or vice versa? And who would handle all of that? I mean, maybe we'd want to get rid of that, but it sounds like it would be some unintended consequences. So no offense, Butch, but I'd hope the folks in Montpelier would talk to some people with boots on the ground
They
dealing with this
understand- they
before they make it happen.
Thank you, Lisa, and we understand that. And that's part of the process. They will have their own, the current proposal is to have the state and the tax department collect that and delinquent tax and be responsible for it.
Okay then.
So,
So that would probably lower our delinquent taxes quite a bit, because they'd certainly be able to pay the taxes
Yeah, for
to
just
us.
for the municipal
Yeah.
part.
Municipal part easier
We're
than
not
the,
lowering what school part of it.
yeah.
and it's
And
pretty,
on the other hand, if the school tax is separated from the town tax, You don't pay your school tax, does the state have a right to come after your property?
Joe, I can't answer that question. And I'm assuming
Of course, we
they
have
will have
an
a
opportunity to
mechanism.
do that as well. The town has tax sales.
I can guarantee you there will be a mechanism to collect that tax.
Yeah.
I hope they don't make it more confusing and more involved than
Well, it will be. I guarantee you it will
If they
be.
can, then-
How could that possibly happen?
Well, yeah, what bad can happen with this?
Oh,
We
God.
don't, we got troubles enough with that.
All right, do you have any more public comment?
I don't dare.
Okay. All right,
Well, they should-
oh, sorry, yeah.
Mr. Hooker?
Hi.
And Mr. Buckley? Mr. Mills?
Mhm.
Mr. Bowman?
Thank you.
Mr. Habershaw?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. May I read my letter?
Yeah, please.
Okay, can I take my mask down just to do that so you can hear me? Thank you. Dear Pittsford Town Select Board officers, first and foremost, I am here tonight to thank all of you. Thank you for holding office, for listening, and for serving our whole town. You may be wondering if I have more to speak to tonight. You might think I am here to mention that Rutland County holds the lion's share of Vermont's renewable installations, but I'm not. You might be thinking, I'm here to talk about our vistas and hidden gems within our Pittsford Trail system, but I'm not, at least not today. Perhaps at another meeting, I would be permitted to present my photos of these trails I've hiked in all seasons. I would be honored for such an opportunity. However, tonight I'd like to simply thank you for your service in these challenging times with all you are juggling and considering. I think about Veterans Day, and I think then to the Hubbardton battlefield and its significance to our nation. I think of the sacred ground there and over the Pittsford Ridge, where our soldiers, some of them scattering and scrambling over the ridge territory. Give pause to this visual and thank them with me. I believe with all we have to think about and worry about, as you, the members of our board, do too, could look to our town plan and feel that you already did this work with our other townsfolk. It stands to protect our upper elevations, watersheds, property values, and affected tax base. It stands to protect our rare and irreplaceable ecosystems on that ridge, together with our carbon sink forests on and around it. I will say that allowing no industrial-sized wind towers on it will preserve the rugged working landscape there, and so will aid us in our response to any potential weather and climate events. It will facilitate our response and resilience as a town if it stands. Our soldiers fought so we could speak and come together and have civil discourse and care about our neighbors in our town, nearby towns, and our Vermont. We can reach across aisles and share and care and listen and be thankful. Select board members, do not trouble your worried minds with more stuff. Your plates and minds and hearts are full enough. Let our town plan say what we've already spoken to. Thank you all. Respectfully submitted, Vanessa Mills.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. I agree. The Hubbardton Select Board actually sent us a letter addressing how the Hubbardton battlefield is the
Planning
most.
commission.
Was it the planning commission? No? Okay, either way. Hubbardton.
Well,
yeah.
Hubbardton, yeah.
Yeah, sent a letter noting that the Hubbardton battlefield is the most pristine battlefield in the whole country. It still looks the way it did in the 1700s,
Yes,
so.
and it was a pivotal
time for our nation there. Pivotal.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry? Oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
could I just make a very quick
Yeah,
follow-up
please.
to the
Yeah.
Hubbardton letter, since Joe has brought it up, and it was delivered, I believe, to all of the affected towns with this, as well as the planning commission. I'm just wondering if you'll put it on your agenda for the next meeting to discuss it. Not that we want to be giving this too much more time than is due,
Mhm.
but I think we need to respond to our citizens in
Yep.
Hubbardton.
Yep, no, absolutely. That'd be great, yeah.
Thanks.
Could I add a PS?
Yeah.
Unrelated. I guess I was just wondering if anybody heard from any first response who the accident was at the Bermuda Triangle of Pittsford at Woodland Drive, Route 7. A couple of days ago, I was headed to work and I saw a white car down in there where one accident, I guess, involved, not this one, but a overturned tanker truck that spilled stuff, and that's why they had to dig it out, if I understand correctly, and it wasn't filled back in. So cars still go down through instead of riding out across Woodland Drive and into the meadow where they'd be much safer if they had to go off the road. But since they nosedive into there still after all this work, I guess I'm just wondering if the person was okay. And I pulled over and I looked in the car and nobody was there, or I would have called someone. But I guess I was just wondering about that, and saying that I hope the Band-Aid won't be a guardrail, because if somebody hits the guardrail going off southbound, which is where all these accidents keep happening by Norma Montaigne's there, took out her mailbox many times, the guardrail would simply propel a car back into north or southbound traffic. So that's not a solution. If anybody thinks that's a Band-Aid, that's my humble opinion and respectfully submitted to.
That was an accident that the fire department did not respond to, and I don't believe first response did either.
Okay.
It was a car that went down sometime in the night.
Yep.
As I came back in the morning going around, they were there trying to pull it out. And
Yep.
the state police went and they'd taken the plates off it, assuming that somebody either was under the weather or something when they did it.
I see.
Just drove straight off.
Yep.
That's what they did.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, I wonder if filling it in would still be possible as the project work is still underway. It may cost less to move earth while the rigs are rolling around, as opposed to after the fact coming in.
That would
And
be-
filling it in would, if cars are gonna continue to go off there, at least that, like I say, they'll ride out across Woodland Drive and into the meadow, which will be injurious, but not as much as nosediving in, or being thrown back by a Band-Aid guardrail.
We've had several accidents there, but that's on state highway, so that's something the state would have. to-
Right, I
We
get it.
have forwarded some of those concerns from
We have.
Vermont and others
Every
in
year
the
it
past.
seems to come up, and
Yeah.
they don't seem to do anything about it. so-
Yeah, the guardrail isn't a solution.
No, it would just, yeah, I agree, it would just.
Ricochet and send you back right back into the traffic,
Yeah.
creating more accident
Exactly.
indirectly. Thank you.
Yeah.
I live off of Woodland, so that's why thank you.
All right, let's go into new business. Butch, would you like to start?
Why don't I go towards the end?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Lisa's got a few things
Yeah,
on here. We can start with Lisa.
Okay, oh, you wanna move that up? That's fine.
So we can start with a discussion of assessor's office budget and staffing.
Okay. So I'm not sure where you want me to start with my contract or the proposal and it's in the contract as well as in my budget of, what I'm presenting to Pittsford is that, I come at a fairly high rate per hour and I'm worth it. But the town could save money and have themselves prepared for the future when, you know, I'm not getting any younger. I may see retirement on the distant, somewhat distant horizon, or not so distant, who knows, if I fall off my horse again and get a conk to the head. So we need to be building young people into this profession. It's been a huge topic at our Vermont Assessors and Listers Association meetings. PVR has been working on it for years. I'm one of the younger ones in the business. We need to recruit some young people in there. So one way to do it that would be a win-win for Pittsford and other towns for assessors is to start creating positions for assessor clerks, where a person who wanted to grow into that profession would work under somebody like me and learn how to do the job, get some training, which is absolutely free through property valuation and review. You can get a darn good education in that field on the state's dime, in effect, if you are on staff for any municipality in an assessment or listing office. So I think that's the way you want to look at it for the future. There's a lot to do. And I can almost eat up a full day here doing the higher end stuff. You don't want to pay me to do more clerk type stuff. And we do have Linda to do secretarial stuff, but I'm talking about kind of in between. You know, the things that, a lot of listers are capable of doing, and they bring in, they might bring in a more qualified assessor for tax appeals or reappraisal, but some of the ongoing stuff, like going out and inspecting porches and sheds, you don't need an appraisal license and 20 years of experience in the business to do that. I could train someone to do that as an assessor clerk, and they'd be learning the ropes. And this model has worked really well for Proctor and for Paulett. I have I've just lost. The young person that I did build into this job has been recruited by Burlington. So we got to watch that. Damn that John Vickery poached my work son there. So we still need to bring more people in. But I do have an assistant assessor in Paulett who is we're suggesting that she's going to take the job in Proctor as well, and that's been a great model. Pittsford would probably be out of her wheelhouse, but find someone like her who is qualified to do a good chunk of the busy work that goes along with the job. So it's proposed in my model for what I would have to do to just keep things going with my hours. I could do it probably for a similar budget and maybe do more, catch up with some of these projects. Like there's a lot of data cleanup that needs to happen. And particularly if you go with the GIS, which I think we really need to do to be in the right place in 2021, it's going to bring up some errors and some cleanup that we have to do with our mapping and our data, which will be a good thing when you come around to needing a reappraisal, which is something we're unfortunately going to be talking about in a couple of years. In fact, the town might want to think about that, given that right now it's a lead time of several years to get an appraisal contracted. So it's a lot going on, but as you probably all know, the real estate market has just gone absolutely crazy. It was on a slow increase over the last couple of years, but this last year has just been, it's swinging the CLAs for every town. A lot of towns are going to be getting orders this year. I don't think Pittsford will quite, but you may be getting closer to it.
So do you think that this is kind of thing where we should develop a job description, decide upon an hourly rate that would be reasonable, and start advertising for somebody?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And I do have one person who might be interested, but I think you should absolutely post it. And then we'd have to interview people and make time for that. But I think it's worthwhile. You want to get someone who's maybe going to stick with it for a while. That's your hope.
Right. Other questions or
No, this sounds like a good idea.
I think we should.
succession planning?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Good. Well, that's something we can at least start the gears rolling on, and we can give you updates as we go forward with that.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yes, yes, and they actually have a similar model in Brandon too, for another example, where they hire Nemrick as their assessor. The woman who's actually my assistant assessor in Pollitt and Proctor is the assessor clerk in Brandon. And so she does a lot of the work at, I'm gonna say about a quarter of the pay that Nemrick is billing at, because they're billing at $30 or $40 an hour more than I.
Okay.
All right.
And you're next here to talk about GIS.
Yeah, so we talked about this like a year ago, and I think with COVID and all, we kind of shelved it. Unfortunately, it would have become even more useful during COVID. It's been a huge help in West Rutland. And did you ever look into that grant idea?
Can you remind us just broadly what GIS is and what we talked about?
Oh, yes, I mean, I thought about doing the dog and pony show on the computer, but I think that would take up too much time. But any of you want to see that, stop in my office and I can show you what we have in West Rutland. So what I'm envisioning is we have this in West Rutland, which has the same software program that Pittsford has, and I'm working on it, getting it up to speed to be exactly the same as West Rutland in Pollitt and in Proctor. So I'd like Pittsford to get up to speed with that, which is that your tax mapping is all online. So you can access it, you can look at overlays, the Google Earth overlays with the parcel shapes outlined around that. You can put your zoning maps in there. I mean, the sky's the limit for the things you could use it for in-house. Some towns have put their water and sewer lines and things like that on it with the mapping. You could put it on mobile devices, the water departments might be rather interested in that kind of thing. And what we've done in West Rutland is Proctor and Pollitt had an abbreviated version of this where you could get the sketch of the property and the very basics of the assessment, right linked to the right to the property map. You click on the object for your lot, say, and there's a drop down that gives you the assessment information. Well, in West Rutland, we took it just a click further, and we have our full property record card, our full lister card, is right available online. And so it's a great tool. Jeff has really appreciated it in West Rutland, and he's been asking me when we're going to get it for Pittsford as well. He suggested some grant funding, which unfortunately I believe the deadline was November 15th for that, but there may be more. I don't know about any of these ARPA funds. West Rutland did get a grant to do this, so that's probably the only reason we had it so fast, is Mary Ann got right in and got a grant for that, which was great. So you might look into that
Certainly,
possibility.
to the extent that we're talking about digitizing records for remote access, that's kind of right up the both the CARES Act and the ARPA Act funding model. So that would certainly be eligible as an ARPA expense. And maybe there's even other troughs of money to use instead.
Oh, good, good. I wasn't sure whether, it's very confusing what the ARPA funds can be used for and what they can't. I've had that conversation
That's
with a lot of
basically
my towns.
COVID related, I would say.
I would say it is,
Just
because
like
it's remote
digitization of the
access.
land records has been a past eligible expense. The idea
Yeah,
is to let people do their work without infecting each other at the workplace.
Absolutely, there shouldn't be any need in 2021 to drive into a town office or to have a person in a town office getting an email, downloading that, putting it in a PDF, and then emailing it to the person when they can self-serve and get it right on the map. Other advantages to that are when you're looking at the paper maps. I don't know if anybody's ever done this in the old days. If you were looking at a property like maybe Dave's or something that might span several maps, and you had to copy each map and get them to the same scale in the copier, which was enough to drive you crazy, and then cut and paste if you wanted to see the picture of that. So that's like the most basic thing that you can do with GIS. And the abutters is literally like a couple of clicks. You find the property you're looking for the abutters for, you click a couple of buttons and it spits out actually mailing labels to go right out to those.
Nice.
So Jeff would really like that. That would probably save some zoning hours. It might save some requests. I think people could, yeah, it's all public, so people could, members of the public could do that too, so.
Lister cards are available to the public on request too.
Oh, absolutely.
But in the past, we've had that one little anxiety, I think, on the board about putting those online to make it easier for vendors and spammers and scammers, but they can certainly get the same information by coming in
You know,
here.
a few years back, not that many years back, I would have totally agreed with that. But the problem is that ship is already sailed. It's already out there. Look at Zillow, they've already got it. We have this group, the Warren Group, that are a regular pain in the neck to assessors' offices everywhere. They gather information, and because it's public record, we have to give it to them. So they pester us, they'll send us email after email until we send them that assessment information so they can sell it to Zillow and to whatnot. So it's already out there, you know.
And this came into us, a proposal came into us with a cost of just a shy of $7,000, is that right?
Yeah, that the upfront cost of developing the GIS website is the bigger part of that, yeah.
And then there's an annual fee of $3,000, I believe,
Yes, yes.
to maintain it.
Yeah, I have that somewhere right in here, yes. Yeah, there's 3,000, that's an annual, that's a one-time setup fee, and then there are two others that are, or one other that is a setup fee of $475. Well, you have all that, I think, and I don't know if you gave them that whole
I
packet or.
did, it's on page 16.
Okay,
It says the total cost is $6,975, broken down as follows. $3,001 for a one-time setup fee, $3,000 for the annual fee, $475 for the staff site setup and implementation, and then $500 for annual hosting. So I guess ongoing would be $3,500 or so.
correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Is the board generally supportive if and when we can identify the money to purchase?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds like it's the future.
It really is. I mean, every town around you has got it. I was talking to CAI today, working on the Proctor project to get their full property record cards up on the website, and they're doing it for Rutland City. Rutland City hasn't even had tax maps, and now they're making the leap into the, you know, really into the digital age, let's say.
From your knowledge and experience, are there any disadvantages that we ought to know about? Probably ain't any.
The information's already out there, so us controlling it, I think, is a good thing. And in the interest of transparency, I mean, you will find a few mistakes. So once we put this out in West Rutland, I got a couple of calls from people saying, I think this is wrong on the map. And sometimes the taxpayer was correct, sometimes they were not correct, but you know, that's all, they were all happier at the end of the story that we found that out. And all this information that we do with our map updates every year, that goes to the state, so that's already online with the state's website. And this new Grand List software is going to do more GIS, so it's a garbage in, garbage, oh my God, garbage flung all over the world kind of scenario. So you do want to control that and keep that mapping information as accurate as you can.
Sounds like it's the way to go.
I think so. I really, yeah, I don't even use the paper maps anymore. I go right to the GIS. It's just so much easier to use. I can look at overlays 6 ways to Sunday. I can look at, you know, everything from elevation. And I can sort of do that now with the VCGI maps, but again, you'd be in control of it, and we could link the Lister cards right to it, which I think is a huge service to the public.
We need a motion?
I don't think so yet, because we haven't identified the funding, but as soon as we have a proposal, we'll
So
come
you want
back
to
and
check in on
that'll make it
the
easier.
grant money and stuff?
Yeah, for sure. We'll ask about eligibility, make sure that it's usable for that.
Great.
So 2 out of 3.
Excellent.
You're on a roll.
Excellent. Okay, well, let's hope this one isn't the big ask. This is the last part is personal property. So when I took on this job, I am a real estate appraiser. I am, and my contract states that very clearly, that I'm a real estate appraiser. Personal property appraiser is a field unto itself. It is a very separate and distinct field of appraisal. And so for the last couple of years, I've done the best I could, which was super difficult during COVID because nobody was in the office, nobody was returning the inventory forms that we send out every year. And we can continue to do that. Linda's done a good job of organizing that, sending out the letters, receiving the letters and logging them and keeping track of that. Where the hard part begins is the information that I get on those inventory forms is widely varied. So my opinion with any job is if I'm going to do it, I want to do it as accurately and as well as possible. And I don't have that comfort with the way we're doing personal property right now. I don't have the time or the expertise to look into these things. So I think in fairness and equity to both the town in terms of revenue you may not be getting because some people are, I am sure, are under-reporting or
Machinery,
over-depreciating.
equipment, these kinds of things, yeah.
Yeah, it's very vague the way the state defines it, where they tell you you can take 50% off the first year and then 10% and never with a floor of more than 90% depreciation. But some will take 90% off in the first year and they don't give me the backup documentation from where they started. So that's what Gail can get to. And she can also figure out the ones in town that we may be missing and help us identify that. I think it's fair to every taxpayer. I mean, we have we have some very large accounts. We have Almia. We also have Troy Minerals, Markowski's. I think there's another one that's a fairly high dollar account. And then we have a lot of other little ones that are that are barely worth sending out the paper of the tax bill. But we looked into that last year of whether we could exempt anything under a certain amount, and I can ask VLCT again, but the answer I got was you'd have to make that exemption off of everybody. If we said anything under 5,000 is exempt, then you have to take the first 5,000 off everybody. So you just lose a bunch off your grand list and bump everybody up. So be it. We send out tax bills for, a couple $100 worth of value here and there.
Is there a rule of thumb on how often one should reassess personal property as opposed to real property?
Well, the state is not quite as clear about that. I could ask, I should ask, but I would, my hunch would be, and my gut tells me in terms of appraisal principles in general, is that you should do it when you do a townwide reappraisal. But we didn't do that, and we've never done that. Mm-hmm. So perhaps the time is now. And then do an update on an annual basis, which would be a much lower cost. But the first time Gail goes through and does this, and we could certainly get a competing quote, but Gail's the only game I know of in the personal property realm. I can ask and find out if there are others.
I know we did the assessment with Vision, right? Do they do personal?
They actually have that as part of their module, so that's actually not a bad idea. I could ask them, and I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to ask for a competing quote. I know Gail because she works for Rutland Town and I believe Rutland City as well. But she's worked for Rutland Town for their personal property for decades, and so I first met her early in my career in this business.
When you look at her proposal, there's like an a la carte kind of menu for cost. Can you tell us what your assessment of the actual total cost of this proposal would be from her? I can't quite make that out.
Yeah, we may want to go back to Gail for some more clarifications. So my understanding from my conversation with Gail that I had after she sent me the quote, she said, I want to talk about it so you kind of understand it. It's like when we do a quote for a townwide reappraisal. I have to consider that the large commercial properties and even properties that are combined with multiple parcels combined into one are more complex, are gonna take me more time than the single-family ranch on a half an acre, you know? So you kind of average those out, or you do them a la carte. So I think she's trying to show you her thought process in saying that it's a lot more costly to do, I mean, just the amount of property, say for Almia, would be a huge job.
My only concern is it's hard for us all to know what the bottom line cost is gonna be. And maybe she can quantify it with some input from you as to how many properties are in each of these categories, and then we can
Yes.
total it up. And
Yes,
then maybe get a competitive quote.
I think a competing quote would be a good idea. I'm not expecting you to jump on that right away, although we probably do need to move on it fairly soon if we want to get something done for next year. But let me see if I can get some competing quotes and get a little more refinement of that from Gail. I think part of it is that she won't know until she starts taking a look at the town to see how many accounts we might be missing out there.
So now, is there, you're talking about this underling that you wanna bring in, for lack of a better term. Is there training from the state to train someone to do what you're saying this Gale person can do?
To do personal property?
Yes.
No, not that I'm aware
Oh,
of.
there isn't, okay, cause I was just
No,
thinking,
no.
that would be something good, this person you're bringing in, to get them trained in that aspect too. But if there isn't, then there is, yeah.
I agree, and it's something listers have just, yeah, I don't know where the heck they've learned from other listers, I guess, and just passed on the yeah, it's been very informal education, which that makes me uncomfortable right out of the
Well,
box.
yeah,
With
yeah.
that, you know, that they're trying to apply these kind of complex accounting terms of book value depreciation versus the 50% a year and then 10% a year, yada, yada. So it's, yeah, it gets very complicated.
Mhm.
Yeah, the state, it would be nice if the state did, but, you know,
Maybe there's a listing you have of the people or the companies who pay personal property taxes and a brief description of their holdings, right? And maybe with that information, maybe Gail could tell us more specifically what she thinks a revisit for all those places would cost.
well, she did have a copy of the 411, or the grand list rather.
Okay.
I sent her a PDF of the grand list for all of our personal property, so she should have some
Well,
idea
when
of
she
that.
says $480 per account for medium-sized companies, I
Right,
don't know
what
if
does
we
that
have- I don't know
mean?
if we have
Yeah.
one or six, just trying
Right.
to figure out what the bottom line is.
Right.
Yeah.
I think she and I can work on fleshing that out, and maybe if we describe that more clearly, get a competing quote and have Gail and this other, if we can find another person, give us an apples to apples
The issue of
comparison.
the real property assessment, when Vision bid on it, we actually got a solid number, not it depends. They gave us a number, because they could probably see a list of properties and average it out per property, you know, figure out a bottom line number.
Right, I think that the difference between real property and personal property is that because the personal property has kind of been self-reporting, if you will, that the properties we don't know about. I mean, while I certainly have found camps and buildings doing townwide reappraisals that we didn't have on the grand list, those are kind of seldom. Usually you have all the inventory as far as the real estate, but personal property, I'm not convinced we do.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
A lot to chew on.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Yeah,
I'm all over.
Good luck on your continued recovery.
oh, thank you.
Yeah,
It's going much better,
good.
thanks.
All right, Stephen, BLSG Mosquito District's proposed bylaw changes.
So it's a resolution to amend the original 1978 agreement. I've brought it to you twice before for your comments,
Yep.
and at this point, we need to ask you to vote on it if you are prepared to do so.
Yeah.
Whether you approve it or not.
Well,
And then let us know.
there were no changes,
No,
No changes to the
the
changes?
last version I brought you was brought,
was the final,
and then I brought it just in time for us to warn a meeting to
Right.
approve it.
okay.
So
So I would make a motion to
I'll second
approve.
it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Aye.
And then John or Alicia, could I get a letter eventually
Yes.
to take to the BLCT?
I'll be happy to, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right, go ahead, Butch.
So, hi, I'm here tonight to just kind of take the board's temperature on what's gonna happen in Montpelier on Monday. You have a letter in your packet that the governor sent to the,
In tonight's material, yeah.
set to the pro tem and the Speaker of the House concerning masking and emergency orders and those type of things. Anybody that's been reading the papers understand, or any of the press understands that the governor does not want to institute an emergency order. And the House and Senate leadership would like to create some mandates. The governor's reasoning for not instituting an emergency order because it opens up a whole Pandora's box and gives the governor unrestrained power and during an emergency order. So he did it last 20 months ago when everybody kind of felt was on board with feeling it was necessary, and he's been hesitant to do it ever since. It creates a whole problem. When he did the emergency order and businesses shut down and factories shut down, people lost their jobs, there were federal money to back that. We received millions of dollars of federal funds to back up those losses. And currently, we're not receiving those funds should we fall into that particular source again. So what the governor's done is sent a letter, and you have the letter, to the pro tem and the speaker, offering to call for a special session. And that special session is going to take place starting at 10 a.m. on Monday. Special sessions are tricky because anything can happen in a special session. But the governor has specifically narrowed his request to the speaker and pro tem that the legislature only acts on this one issue. There are 4 basic tenets that will be in a bill, and we do not have a bill as of yet. We won't see the bill until Monday, probably noonish time. The Senate's going to act on it, well, we'll see it at 10, but the Senate's going to act on it first, and the House will act on it secondly. These are the governor's requests to the Speaker and the pro tem that the legislation limited to facial coverings, requirements indoors, within buildings within the municipality's jurisdiction, except schools. Schools are a different thing. For the specific and exclusive purposes of addressing COVID-19. That's a little confusing, but it doesn't mean just town buildings. It means any and all public buildings within the town. Stores, post office, town equipment, casellas, any of those spots. Here's where you come in. The legislation must allow each individual municipality to enact by action of you a mask mandate. And that mask mandate has to begin on November 29th, so it's pretty fast. Or upon passage, which is ever earlier, I suspect, if the legislature agrees with these and the bill is limited to this, it will pass on Monday, the governor will sign it no later than Wednesday, I think. The legislation then sunsets on April 30. The 4th tenet is a little bit, would require you to reevaluate and vote every 30 days on it, whether or not Pittsford would have a mask mandate. And I think that's I don't know what I think it is. I don't know yet, because we haven't heard the bill. So those are the 4 pieces, and then written or assumed within this language is you all, or the town would all, be responsible for enforcing the mask mandate. It would not be the state this time. It would be the towns to enforce this. So that's what I'm here for. I'm here just to take your temperature, give maybe a kind of a little straw poll or whatever. of your thoughts, and I've done the same thing in Brandon. I have their thoughts, and I'm not gonna tell you what they are. Just like we had the other night when we did redistricting.
Right.
Can't tell you what everybody else is thinking until we're done voting.
Can I ask just one clarification?
Yeah.
What they're considering, or what they will consider, is not whether a particular town wants a mandate. It's whether the state will allow towns to decide for themselves.
That is correct, John. We are a Dillon state, and within it, we're a Dillon state. It's a type of governance that the state has to give towns permission to do stuff. You have a town charter. As an example, when Brandon wanted the 1% extra tax on various things to help with their infrastructure, we had to pass a charter change in the legislature to allow Brandon. So it's a type of, Dillon's a type of governing. Vermont's one of, I think, 6 states left that do Dillon, under the Dillon rules. That Dillon was a judge that said, this is how it's gonna work, many moons ago.
Well, there's Dillon's rule and home rule.
Dillon's rules of home rule.
And we were a home rule town up until we joined the town and the village, from what I understand.
You were always under Dillon rules. You were always under Dillon, which the legislature controls what you do here. So we had to allow you to have your vote to join the village and the town. Well, you can have the vote, but then after the vote, the legislature, I wasn't in the legislature, but the legislature then approved your vote and said, okay, go ahead and do that. So your vote here was an advisory vote to the legislature, honest to God, Dave. That's the way
I
it was.
remember that.
Yeah. Then you have.
But aren't there still some home rule towns in
There are
this
no
state?
home rule, everybody's governed by the same rules.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I guess I'm.
Yeah.
We're all
Taken.
subdivisions of the
Oh,
state,
you're also.
and we can only do what the state allows us to do.
Right, right. Thank you, Tom, for clearing that up. You said it much more eloquently than I did. So, you got any questions, or I'm happy I'm sitting here and.
The only thing is enforcement would be the problem.
Yeah,
And you said this isn't just town buildings, this is
All
all
buildings.
businesses within the town?
Within town, right.
And we would be, so our, what? We don't have a big enough police department to enforce all this, so what are you gonna do, start arresting
Well,
people
we
for
saw,
not wearing masks?
we saw what happened during the emergency order with mask mandates here in Rutland. There was an issue at the fitness center on North Main Street.
that's right, yeah, they
And
shut
that
it
was
down.
a
They got
kerfuffle.
shut down, yeah.
And there was a big issue in Newport
Yes.
where actually a person lost his business.
He lost his business.
He made a conscious decision.
Yeah.
Yeah,
His conscience told him that I'm going to oppose this, and he ended up, for all intents and purposes, lost his business. So, that's my spiel, and I'm just taking your temperature to see how hot or cold it is on this.
Well, certainly the stuff is on the rise now, it's not
Yeah.
going down,
Right.
so.
which makes no sense with over 90% vaccinated,
Yeah.
but just my
But it's
point.
the ones that aren't vaccinated.
Well, no, it's not, there's all kinds of people with vaccine getting it too,
They
so
get it, but
it's not
it's in the
both.
hospital, but it's proven, it's most of them, what was the percentage, 70%?
77% are
That have it
vaccinated.
are not vaccinated.
Yeah.
Right.
But then why did Channel 3 News report back in October, for like the first half, 70% were vaccinated?
Right. That's
That we're
because
getting.
The numbers changed. Today,
Yeah.
yesterday, 2 days,
it's
2
new
days ago. 2
Like
days
my
ago.
father said, figures don't lie, but liars do
No,
figure.
the county delegation met Monday with the Secretary of Human Services and Dr. Levine. And the latest data that they have, okay, is, the good part is, for many of us in this room, the vaccinated population is 65 plus, we're number 1 in the country.
Right.
For us that are a little older, that's a good thing. But 70% of the people in the hospital today are unvaccinated.
Other than vaccinated.
I heard 81%.
You know, this was a
Yeah.
couple days ago.
Yeah.
And it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. It depends on what the reporting period is, you know.
Yeah.
But clearly 77% that have these cases today are unvaccinated. We have a 92.1% vaccination rate
Yeah.
for one shot.
That's,
Right. And
that's
then
one shot.
for one shot. And then in Rutland County, we're right on the state average fully vaccinated people is 74%. And the state average is 74%. So, and some of this is breakthrough cases. Just as an aside, I have a legislative friend that called me last Friday, and for some stuff, and she sounded a little funny, and I asked her, so how are you doing? She says, I have COVID. I said, really? She says, I'm vaccinated. She said, but my son goes to St. Mike's, and he was there for the Halloween party and came home and infected the household. So it does happen. It clearly does
Seems to
happen.
me I've heard about the Halloween party before.
Yeah. So,
I think you still get it if you're vaccinated, it's just you won't get it severely, and you probably won't end up in the hospital, won't end up dying.
so I'm not, vaccination's another whole issue.
Yeah.
I'm really not touching that. But this is for you, as a town, if you wanted to do this, you would have control of indoors within the municipality's jurisdiction, except for schools, because they're under another jurisdiction, for the specific and exclusive purpose of addressing COVID-19. So should you choose to do that, you would have control of any building in the town that follows those.
Butch, if this body decided that they didn't want to go along with this, that means that Pittsford would.
No, you can do anything you want. I mean,
Okay.
this is just, like I say tonight, it's just a straw poll for me. When I go back to Montpelier on Monday.
But I'm saying if the legislature would have passed this,
Yep.
And then we'd say we didn't.
then Pittsford Select Board could say, we opt out. Is that correct?
They could say, you still have, they have the option of saying by, and I'm not sure about this, the way this letter is written, it's a little confusing, but a mask mandate beginning on Monday, November 29th. So there's some urgency to getting this done. So if you decided that if the bill passes and you want to do it, you can do it.
And if the bill passes and we don't want to do
Yeah,
it.
that's-
You don't have to do it.
That was my
Exactly.
thought.
Exactly. Yes, you
That's
have
what Beard was saying.
the option. The ball is still in your court.
That's what I was after. Thank you.
Okay.
So the options are open to you as time moves forward.
If this is something we pick up on, then where's the enforcement come? We're supposed to pick up on that too.
Yeah.
So that's gonna make
It's
a,
impractical.
Yeah.
It's just a strong suggestion.
not gonna work very well.
Well,
Look, tonight, if you want to wear a mask, you can wear a mask. If you don't, you don't have to. You know, here we are. We all have our own opinion. We all have our own wants and needs. And
Well, at one time, it was said that if you had your shots, that you didn't have to wear a mask.
Right.
But I think one thing that's happened is this new version of this COVID thing
yeah.
is something different
More
than the
contagious.
first one was. So it's kind of,
This is
Vermont was supposedly the best
First to
state of
last.
all.
We
went
At
from
one
first to
time.
last
Now we're
pretty fast.
on the other end of that.
And that's the headline in the New York Times today. How can this happen in Vermont?
So one of the issues with that is that we vaccinated early in Vermont, and without boosters, that vaccine efficacy, that's the fancy word, is waning.
Yeah.
So now, everybody now is eligible for a booster in Vermont. No, there's no age banding, 18 and up, everybody's eligible for a booster. Today, yesterday. Provided that you've been long enough since Betsy knows all the medical pieces of this thing. Well, think of that's a long enough time between
6
your
months.
initial inoculation, yeah. So,
I just had my third shot. If it wasn't for the Band-Aid they put on it, I wouldn't even know I had it.
That's the same here.
if it wasn't for taking the Band-Aid off, you would have never known. So that's, I just come here to have this discussion with you and answer any questions if I could. And,
I've noticed most places in town, people are starting to wear masks, promoters, post office. So,
Some people are, but some inside the stores are not.
right.
Inside the library is not.
Yeah.
That's what concerns me as to whether we, and you know, I'm a health professional, that we can suggest strongly that these businesses, whip it up, but there's no control.
Well, there isn't really with a mandate either, with no way to enforce it.
Exactly, but you can still put the piece of paper up there because of, We strongly
Notice has done
suggest.
that already.
And you can lead by example.
They kind of
And you can lead by
self-regulate
example,
it too.
exactly.
I mean, you see, I saw it, come on, I don't know, if it was yesterday. People going, all of a sudden, seeing people coming out with that,
Right.
a guy was, oh, gee, I forgot my
Yeah,
mask.
exactly.
Went and put a mask on. So people do it
But that's
themselves.
not true with the employees, which
Some
really-
are and some aren't, so I go in there and some of them got on, some don't, so, yeah. I don't know.
Maybe I'm staying out of the local politics.
This is a situation where I don't care which way you vote, you can't please everybody. There's just no way in hell you're gonna do it, pardon my French, but,
You know,
It's
the
impossible.
town leads by example, so.
yep, so that's why I got one on tonight.
But we could put a little poster or
We could,
something to
yeah.
all the businesses in town, just saying because of, we strongly suggest.
I think you're mean.
Don't be sneezing on
COVID Larry over here.
When we go out Monday, we have to be-
You know, that's the worst thing, if you cough or sneeze,
I
it's think a bomb went off or something.
You wanna take them home tonight?
No, I'm not taking him home.
On Monday, we're, thank goodness, we're not required to be vaccinated to go in the building, but we're being required to take a PCR test when we go in, which is fine.
That
I'm
makes
happy
sense.
with that.
Yeah.
I think
That makes
that's
perfect
a
sense.
great solution, yeah.
That makes sense.
But I can guarantee you 180 members of the assembly are not vaccinated. There's
sure
some
they are.
members in the assembly that are not vaccinated. Yeah, and that's their right.
Yep, sure.
Does the board want to advise Butch to vote one way or the other on Monday, or just leave him to his own discretion?
But come on, we can go either way.
Oh, man.
Pardon me, Hank?
Come on, we can go either
You
way.
go either way.
You know,
I'm not a huge fan of the mandate.
You go what?
I'm not a huge fan of the mandate, personally.
That's what I've heard of other. Are we done with that discussion now?
I think we are. I
well,
guess
yeah,
unless
no, I
anybody else
agree
has
with, I'm
a.
not a huge fan of a mandate either, a strong suggestion
I heard
is
that,
fine.
I heard that in
Yeah.
one of my other large towns.
We won't mention any names.
North of us.
Yeah.
We only got 2 towns.
I know, I was like, oh my god, is this up here?
That's 3.
Well, that's right, pretty well, okay, yeah.
They have no public.
Forgot about the little one.
They only have one public building plus
Bye.
the
Great night.
town garage.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so very,
Bye.
Leaving us.
Thank you.
so that's my spiel. Thank you for
Okay,
taking the time to listen to me and guide me.
thanks.
Normally I just vote, just take the repercussions when I get home, and I think this is way more important that I needed to bring it to you.
Okay.
Well, it's good for us to be aware of what's
Yeah.
going on, because I wouldn't have known there was a
Yeah.
special session, well, other than what I read here.
Yeah. Good, thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, we got our second budget draft.
Yes. that's
You don't wanna
Butch's
hang out and
cue.
talk about the second budget draft?
We're starting ours in the 10th of December.
You
I don't think
Do
there
that
was,
at the VLCT.
Boy, you really know how to clear a room.
I know.
Well,
That's the
yeah,
budget,
yeah.
that's
Well,
it.
you're the last one that spoke, so.
Watch your step, everybody.
What happened to the, didn't we have like a little rug here
We
last
did,
time?
and
We didn't, we didn't expect.
we thought that maybe we wouldn't have a crowd, so we didn't roll it out. That's what you get for expecting.
Did you get to see the left?
I did, thank you so much. Really
Thank you all,
appreciate that.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good night.
See ya.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. We're up.
See ya.
Big trouble with that. I can't hardly understand the people when you're talking.
I know. All right, there weren't too many,
Not too many changes, other than just, I'll point out just a few things. On the expense side, there of course will be uncertainty until you've hired your new town manager about first what you'll pay him or her. Certainly will be within a range. And then of course, health insurance is a huge variable. Is it a single person or one with a family? That could be a $15,000 or $20,000 difference. Then you'll want to decide whether you want to have a car allowance, like your current town manager was blessed with a few years ago.
I always thought you should ride your bike, cause you're so close.
That is I mean, walking is a definite option. That's motivation. Wages for the town clerk, the assistant clerk, and bookkeeper have been adjusted to reflect changes for them in this last year. The zoning budget has been modestly increased, as we talked about recently, to allow for some health insurance for him. We had increased, at least on this current draft, the police cruiser contribution from $15,000 to $20,000. We've increased general wages across the board for the 1.5% increase called for in the union contract. The rec department's health insurance line has been boosted by the fact of our new employee signing up for two-person coverage. The annual, I have suggested at least that the annual capital fund for the rec department be doubled from $4,000 to $8,000, because it does look like Jen has some ambitious upgrades in mind, and we should keep that fund solvent. Vehicle and heating fuel numbers have been increased to reflect these increased prices we're seeing. The assessor's budget has been increased to reflect Lisa's wish, as she has outlined today. Of course, some of that won't be just an add-on, but it'll be, a combination of her doing a little bit less work and the new person doing substantially more. So a little bit of an increase, not the full amount that you might expect. Finally, there was an error in the town's contribution to the water fund, which is supposed to be $15,000. For some reason, originally that was $1,500 in the first draft, so apologies there. The budget shaves the current budget shaves $12,000 off of the highway foreman's $392,000 paving request. Even so, the figure represents a $28,000 increase over last year's amount. There was no figure submitted for vehicle fuel for the highway department in the first draft, so obviously we've had to insert about $32,000 for that. We've had a better experience with a younger workforce, that is Tyler Allen replacing Bruce Babcock in water and sewer, so that those lines, based on recent history, can be reduced in my estimation by $5,000 in each department for labor. And going forward, we are starting to assume 2% annual increase for water and sewer bills. Of course, we've had an experience where we've gone many years with no increases and then big bumps when we've had projects to do. But the thought is, and that's been verified, of course, by Common Sense and Chad, our auditor, that rather than see these things spike up and down, we ought to have a glide path that represents the inflation rate, roughly. As of now, the general fund budget features a deficit of $15,288. Highway has a more significant shortfall of $49,000. Water fund is in the hole right now at about $44,000, but the sewer fund breaks even pretty much with those new rates factored in. Again, we will learn more about some of our insurance coverages, which can be big ticket items, in this next month or two from VLCT. This is the time of year when we hear that kind of information. And going forward, I'll be scrubbing the file, the budget, to see about some of these expenses that have been requested that are more appropriately capital type projects, not ongoing budget matters, where we might look at possible ARPA eligibility for some of those items. So stay tuned. We're still very early in the process. Happy to get any input.
Okay. John,
Go ahead.
those are the deficits you got, that's just in the budget rate.
That's just the deficit as of now. If we left the tax rate at
We have a
3%.
balance forward anyway. So
Oh, we absolutely do.
I want to make sure we keep that cushion.
Right now,
Yeah.
and that's why it's important to reach balance, so that we're not starting in the hole and eating away at our fund balances. But the point is, for this year, for now, I've plugged in a revenue figure reflecting a 3% increase for highway and general fund. If you folks want to tell me that that's too high, we can adjust it and find more ways to cut. If you think that's appropriate, given that last year we were level funded and that we're saying a lot of inflationary pressures, that's fine too. Or if you want the number to be increased, let me know. But for now, I've had it as a placeholder.
I suggest we make sure we take care of inflation.
Yeah.
Right, but have we, I mean, we've got, what, $1 or $2 million houses going in a section of our town. We've got Dollar General coming in, so as far as our grand list,
Could be up.
should be up.
Well, what happens, of course, every year is you get the grand list and that affects the tax rates.
Right.
More than the bottom line revenue coming in, because every year you take the general fund, you find out, you figure out how much you want to raise in taxes, and then the rates get you there.
7, yeah.
Right, but the, go ahead.
No, I was going back up on, when we went back to the first response thing, we discussed it, and I see it didn't get plugged in there. A vehicle replacement thing, I think should be plugged in there.
Yeah,
I know
there
both
is-
their vehicles are old, and we're gonna get clobbered.
There is actually a 37, I found 37,000 in the Pittsford first response vehicle replacement, and we put 5,000 every year into it.
No, I didn't see it on the line, so.
Oh, yeah, there's building repairs and
Oh, okay,
vehicle
so it's in
replacement for
there.
Pittsford first
So
response.
it's a
$5,000
$5,000?
each. Yeah,
You might wanna consider bumping up to 7,500.
Yeah.
5,000 doesn't buy anything today.
yeah. And of course, we are waiting on estimates, as Bob Foley told us, about replacement of windows and some
Right.
siding.
That's great, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Cause that'll come back and bite us.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah?
Okay. That's my update for now, but stay tuned.
All right,
It's a moving target.
thanks, John.
Would you dare guess as to whether we're gonna go up a few percent or
Well,
hold the line or go,
Put it this way,
hard to
Put
tell
it this
yet.
way, we all heard from all the department heads about their proposals, and all of them sound good.
Yeah.
But unless you want to see, a 5, 6, 7% property tax increase, we're going to have to make some tough
We've got to make
decisions.
some
Yeah.
cuts.
And that's what it's
Well,
all
we've got
about.
to,
I'm sure there's
because
areas we can cut, I know there is.
Because we've got, with inflation, what it is right now,
Yeah.
right now is what it is, but
That's not gonna be that way next year.
for the people to pay their bills next year, that's, the next few years is gonna be hard on them.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Hard on us too, but we're in a position where we can make decisions to at least,
Try to hold.
but it would be nice to have an idea how much our grand list is, because I mean, the bottom line is keeping the tax rate roughly the same.
Exactly.
That way, the effect on people stays the
Stay
same.
about the same.
Yeah. So it would be nice to have an idea,
And we've done it before.
what our grand list is doing.
Good for a long time.
We did it for,
Basically-
we did it for 10 years plus.
Basically, what happens, of course, is you all adopt a budget, hopefully voters approve it, and then in June, the grand list is lodged, and that tells you what the rates need to be to raise the amount of money
Right.
based on the grand list.
Yeah.
Right.
But by that time, it's too late to make any changes.
That's right, because your budget's been approved.
Your
So-
budget's been approved, but if you've got a concept of what you're, in other words, if you're adding a couple $1 million houses, and I don't know what this place is appraised for, say you're adding 3, 4, 5 million, whatever you're adding to the grand list, it gives you an idea where you can go with the budget. To keep the rates, for me, the goal is to keep the rates
Try to hold
Yeah.
along.
as close as you can keep them.
So that people's actual
Actual
experience
is
is not shocking.
not shocking,
I
exactly.
got you.
Until it comes to the school budget, as we.
Well, and the school
should not-
budget is out of our control.
No, I know, I'm just
And it
saying
looks like
that,
it may be completely out of our,
Maybe we should get a bill passed that gives the state the burden of collecting the property taxes, gives us the interest, and takes us off the hook for collecting delinquencies. What do you think the odds of that?
well, no, but I mean, as far as the town tax, I mean, if, what he's talking about, if they do that,
That's,
people they will pay their town tax.
Yes.
yeah, they will.
Because it's low enough so most anybody can afford to pay it, so we aren't gonna have the delinquent problems.
No, the state
It's the
is.
school tax is what kills
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, it is.
So, I mean, and it may wake people up, you're all of a sudden sending this massive check
I
to the
was shocked.
state of Vermont. Whoa, what's this all about?
I was shocked at how many students aren't at Lotus anymore.
Yeah.
I was, when they had that little parade there, Halloween for the kids,
Yeah?
their enrollment has got to be way
I
down.
think it's just around 200, where it was closer to
It's
300 when Liam and Declan were
Oh,
were
yeah,
still
that's
there.
right, their
So,
enrollment has,
yeah.
Oh.
dropped significantly.
And yet the price
Yeah.
keeps going up.
That's why it's spread under, spread around most people.
Well, no. It's still spread over all the taxpayers.
Yeah.
That's not, I mean, what I mean is that's less taxpayers paying for less, spread out
Less
towards.
taxpayers. No, you still got the
No.
same number of
Same number of
taxpayers
Paying for the less
for less
kids, but they,
children.
it's the per student.
The per capita is high.
Thank you, that's
Yeah.
that's where I was trying to go with that, thank you. All right, enough with the school mismanagement, that's not our problem.
I didn't say I'm not the one that said
Oh, it's, I did. I meant it.
Focus on our own mismanagement.
Yeah. All right, last thing, we got a update on the hiring of the new town manager.
Yeah, in today's packet, Rick McGuire from VLCT reports basically his latest work for the town. He has completed discussions with all of you. He's also posted the advertisement of the position in various electronic sites, internet sites across the region. And they've been asked, all the applicants have been asked to submit their applications by December 10th. So that's an important step forward.
Mhm. Awesome.
Alicia, I just sent it to you too, the ad.
Oh, thank you.
It's on the town's website, and it's also on VLCT's page in Connecticut and Maine, and it'll be elsewhere
All
too.
right,
And
great,
in the local papers too.
awesome.
We supposed to talk about them solar projects.
We can certainly
One on
put
the
solar
Adam
as
Grove.
well. We can put that both on the
Yeah,
agenda for
yeah,
next
yeah,
time.
Next time.
let's put that on the, yeah.
Not tonight.
Definitely.
No, let's, how about we end the open part of this meeting?
Good idea.
And roll into executive in John's office.
Okay.